Pete Sweeney, Pete Sweeney, Pete Sweeney, Pete Sweeney, Pete Sweeney, Pete Sweeney.
Oh, yeah, it's time to check in with our guy Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride. He's presented by Mark Ferguson, the attorney that's been helping KC sports fans with all their legal needs since 1996. Integrity, results, that's Mark Ferguson. We also have our playoff beer event tonight. I'm just curious if Pete Sweeney is going to be gracing us with his presence tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to just check the weather conditions when it might be time to head over there and just make sure I can get there safely. But, if there's
Smart.
a will, they say there's a way. And so we'll see if there's a will or a way later on.
A week ago, we were talking about your hot streak when it comes to sports betting. You were going to Capitol Grill and all that. I'm just questioning, are you still, is there a big dinner plan this weekend? Or maybe you have your own driver now that's taking you to our event?
I wish that were the case. I haven't really cooled down, but we're a little bit away from the flame. It's more of like a lukewarm maintain right now, but you never know when that next big hit could be around the corner.
Before we get to the game part of this, Pete, which is important, is Tyreek Hill returning your text messages since he's complaining that both Mahomes and Travis aren't returning his?
Yeah, me and Tyreek both love pickleball, so we'll chat about that every once in a while. Send a message back and forth, but nothing about football. He knows that I cover the Chiefs. He's in Miami at this point. We try to not talk about that during our conversations, but he's doing good. He's doing good.
What factor do you think Tyreek will make in this game versus the first time around? It's not like he didn't get any catches the first time against the Chiefs, but, he was held in check for the most part, Pete, like most number one wide receivers have been. What kind of game are you expecting out of Tyreek?
Yeah, I wonder if they change up their game plan a little bit to get the ball in his hands a little bit more quickly. Maybe some of that stuff that we've seen the Chiefs do with McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney with stuff out of the backfield, just making sure that he gets a proper amount of touches and has enough space to work. And Kansas City will have the challenge of making sure that he doesn't have those things and trying to have a repeat performance of what they did last time. Tyreek was able to get some yardage against the Chiefs in the first game, but the production that he had was under 70 yards. I mean, you take that any time, and so you're looking for a repeat performance against what I consider. I know that there's always an argument here, but what I consider to be the most impressive wide receiver in the NFL. So another challenge for Kansas City, but they did good the first time. I think what changes the game, I'm sure we're going to get to it, is just the fact that Devon Achane will be available, and that helps both players be productive because you got to worry about both of them.
Yeah, let's talk about his impact because, as you said, he wasn't available in the Germany game. We know that Raheem Mostert's had a career type of season, at least getting into the end zone. He's not officially cleared to play yet, but everybody believes Raheem Mostert's going to play. How do you think that really, I'll call it a three-headed rushing attack, including Jeff Wilson there at times for the Dolphins. How do the Chiefs match up with that? Because if there was one weakness with a great defense, it's been against the run.
Yeah, it's tough because I think Waddle will play too. I know he's questionable ahead of this game, so you're almost looking at a four-headed monster if all these guys are going. In Hill, Achane, you have Mostert, and then as we said, Waddle. I just think it's tough because you only have like one L'Jarius Sneed, you only have one Trent McDuffie, and so it's going to take everybody. Really rallying to the ball as fast as possible. I think the big thing is when these guys get the ball in their hands, it's just making sure that you have a defender within the vicinity. And we know it all too well in Kansas City with Tyreek. If you gave him any kind of room in front of him, I mean, he was gone. And we've seen that in Miami. It's why he was able to have such a successful season. But I think it's tough because if they have those four players all together, I mean, there are packages where all four can be on the field at the same time. And it's like, are you devoting two guys to Tyreek and allowing these other speedsters to run all over you? I compared it, of course, to pro wrestling. This is kind of what the Chiefs used to be. Like, it's almost right now we're having like the NWO versus the NWO Wolfpack where like these guys have gone away, led by Tyreek, and they kind of have a new Legion of Zoom thing going on, but you got to find a way to curb it. And I think Kansas City's going to have to try to do that.
When you look at what the Chiefs can do offensively, we were talking earlier in the show about Travis Kelce and what to expect out of him. I think people sometimes outside of Kansas City don't realize he's one of the single greatest playoff performers of all time, and the man got the week off in Week 18. Gold and I both think he could be in for a big game again, maybe because I'm just used to it out of Travis Kelce. How big do you think he'll be in this game?
Well, I think one of the problems with, the beginning, or maybe more so like the middle of the season onward, is I think the Chiefs for a while were seeking like who that next weapon could be. I think as the year had gone on, they started to identify, well, maybe we have to be more of a running team with Isaiah Pacheco. Rashee Rice came into his own and proved that he could be a number one receiver for this team. And I think now that the Chiefs have accepted that identity, where like Isaiah Pacheco needs to be touching the ball 15 to 25 times, I think that might start to open things up in the pass game. I mean, we saw a couple weeks ago Rashee Rice get a long pass down the sideline, didn't make it into the end zone, but I just thought that was a positive sign because we just haven't seen that version of Patrick Mahomes really since Tyreek Hill left the team, being able to throw for 100 yards with deep passes. And I think the same thing can happen for Travis Kelce and open things up. Like you start to drive fear into the heart of your opponent, they're going to make an adjustment to make sure Pacheco's not gashing you, and then maybe finally it could open things up for a Travis Kelce. Kelce, it seemed like to me, did battle the decision of should he play even for the snaps that it would take to get 16 yards against resting. He was dealing with a neck injury all week leading into Week 18. And I think he probably needed the week off. He probably needed not to play a game to just make sure that he was 100% and ready to go. I think more so than even like the old age, I think that hyperextending your knee the night before or the 2 nights before the season begins is probably the worst case scenario. I know that he came back and was able to manage through it, but I wonder just how much that's been hindering him as you go here throughout the season. And so week off was probably smart. Said goodbye to that single season record, but I think you guys are right. I think he could be somebody that plays a huge role in the postseason. And he didn't get to 1,000 yards, but should he be able to manage 100 yards a game in the playoffs, nobody's going to remember that.
We're talking to our Chiefs insider from Arrowhead Pride, Pete Sweeney. Yesterday, he and Andy Reid were both asked about their future. You were in the room when that was going on. What did you make of each answer? Because starting with Andy Reid, I know he at first said, I don't really think about that. But then he was very quick to also say, you guys are only asking because I'm old, and basically said, and I'm not that old.
Yeah, well, first with Andy Reid, I mean, he jokes about this. He's a bigger man, and I think that kind of confuses people, especially at the national level of like, well, he looks a certain way. He's going to retire because he's in his 60s. He's 6 years younger than Bill Belichick, and the same people that are commenting on Andy Reid retiring are wondering where Bill Belichick is going to go next. So I've always kind of felt like it didn't make sense that he gets questioned each and every year. I think he wants to continue being a coach in this league. I think if Andy Reid, who has really coached a lot of good quarterbacks, talk about Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick and Alex Smith, I think if he fired up Madden, so picture that in your brain, and was making a creative player for his quarterback, he would make Patrick Mahomes. He's been waiting 2 decades to coach a player like this, and you see what it's led to. The 2 Super Bowls, the 3 Super Bowl trips, all these conference titles and conference games. And so I think that he'll go as long as his body allows him to, and that's a little longer, obviously, like with a coach than a player. I also circle 2025. Andy Reid's a man of principle. He signed a contract with the Chiefs that runs through the 2025 season. If you want to have that conversation after that season, which is 2 off seasons from now, I think that's reasonable. But until then, I think he's going to try to go as long as he can. And I think he sees what Bill Belichick has done. And Reid would never say this type of thing at the podium, so this is just my belief. But I think he sees those 6 titles, and I feel like he probably thinks, well, I'm going to have Mahomes probably half the time that Belichick had Brady. What if I get to 4? Would I be in consideration for the greatest head coach of all time? I mean, we debate Michael Jordan and LeBron James, for God's sakes. So I think if you can get in that range, you start to have those conversations. I also think with Travis Kelce actually, with his quote mattered more to me than Andy Reid's, because I was a little unsure about that. I mean, we talked about that on this show, but him kind of saying that and saying that he still loves the game makes me think that he is willing to go a few more seasons, and as long as his body holds him. And maybe I remember I'm dating myself now. I'm pretty old here, but I remember when Kelce was the backup to Anthony Fasano, and then eventually they kind of switched, right? Like, and Kelce became that. Like, I wonder as he chases Tony G. I know that some people, don't believe that he has enough years left, but I think he's within range, especially if the Chiefs load up on offense and things open up for him next year. I think he could, have another 1,000-yard season, maybe another 2. And then you get closer to Tony G, and just how far are you willing to go to chase that career record? I don't think he would say it, but I think that's what he's eyeing when he says, I'm not going to be done in the near future.
Pete, last thing for me, since everyone's made a lot of deal about the weather, obviously, and I don't know, crazy Miami fans wishing that they would move the game, although the one in Buffalo might be the one just as, in need of that than here in Kansas City. If the Chiefs win against Miami on Saturday, will you commit to taking one photo without your shirt on at the stadium?
If the Chiefs win on Saturday?
Yeah.
You know what? Here's what I'll do. If they manage to tie a playoff game, and if it gets so cold that they call the teams off the field, I'll go out and do it for you.
What if they win by like 40? Will you set a number in which the Chiefs win by, in which you'll do this for us?
No, you know what? Because the internet's forever. I know that, and I don't necessarily need my grandkids one day to be looking back at that photo. But here's what I'll do. If the Chiefs win by 14, the next time you have a T-shirt sale, I'll come out and help you with that.
There you go.
How about that?
Oh, okay.
I was curious, though, what's the number, though, that you would not be nervous at all with that bet? Cody said 40, and you were going to.
That's a big number.
What's the 40-point win? Are you still nervous to take 40, or does the number have to be higher?
No, I just can't do it. I'm not going to commit. I just know that I know that's
because man, it would be fun for all of us, Pete, if it was the fourth quarter and somehow the Chiefs had their second best offensive performance, and it's 34-6, and we're like, we'll see. Can they get a couple more touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, and these muscles are bulging. I don't want to embarrass anybody either, so that's part of it. But if they have a 2-touchdown win,
you'll help me the next T-shirt.
With Cody, yeah, and I will set up the lemonade stand with him outside the station.
Okay.
All right, man. Appreciate the insight. Stay warm out there, and yes, keep your clothes on, please.
All right, boys.